Mountain State Mysteries contains adult content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm your host, Mark.
And I'm Courtney.
And this is Mountain State Mysteries. The case we have for you today has been one of our biggest deep dives yet. Just like everyone else, it has left us asking the question of what really happened at mile marker 181. This is the case of Jaleayah Davis. Jaleayah Rose Davis was born on November 2nd, 1991 in Colorado Springs, Colorado, to Kimberly Nolan Davis. Jaleayah lived in the tight-knit community of Marietta, Ohio, which is just across the Ohio River from West Virginia. Jaleayah was a graduate of Marietta High School, and she worked at the retail store Holster. Her and her sister Tabby was really close, only being born 18 months away from each other, so it was kind of like a built-in best friend. Tabby said that Jaleayah really wanted to go to school to become a cosmetologist. On Friday, November 19th, 2011, Jaleayah planned on going out with one of her newer friends, Kristen Berchold. She arrived to Kristen's house in Vienna, West Virginia around 7 p.m. They baked some cookies, showered, then got ready for a party. The party was at a guy's house named Brian Saps. Kristen knew him, but Jaleayah had never met him before. Right before they got there, Jaleayah was texting her mother, and her mother said, quote, "Be good, and don't make me worry. Love you," end quote. They got to Brian's house around 9 to 9:30. When they got there, some of Kristen's friends were already there. Freddie Scott and another kid named Jordan. The estimated time for Jaleayah and Kristen being at Brian's house was about 2 hours. Around 11 p.m., Kristen, Jaleayah, Brian, Freddie, and Jordan left to go pick up Kristen's friend Katie Nelson at Hardee's. But in Kristen's interview, she said it could have been around 10 to 10:15 p.m. In Kristen's interview, she said she couldn't remember if this happened before or after they picked up Katie, but Freddie stopped at North End Market to get another bottle of Ciroc vodka. After this, the group returned to Brian's house. When they got back to the house, Kristen said that Jaleayah continued taking shots of alcohol. She said that after Katie got to the house, Jaleayah probably took 16 shots of alcohol. Now, I'm not a big drinker, so I wasn't sure how much 16 shots would measure out to, so I filled a shot glass up with some water and measured it out myself. It came to about 3.5 cups of alcohol.
Kristen says she probably had 14 to 15 shots and that she, quote, wasn't really that drunk, end quote. She was asked, could you tell anything about Jaleayah, how she was feeling? Quote, well, honestly, I didn't think she was that drunk. I thought that when she took the shot glass away from me and took a shot anyways, I kind of had a feeling that she might have been a little bit drunk because normally she wouldn't do that. If I were to take away a shot from her, she just would.
Question, accept it?
Yeah, so I was kind of like, okay, maybe she is just doing this to show me that, like, she can, like, to take this shot. So I didn't really argue with her about it, end quote.
After they got back to Brian's house, Katie had to do her makeup and change her clothes. Then Jaleayah, Freddie, Jordan, Katie, and Kristen went to Nip and Q. It's said that they arrived about 10 minutes till midnight, or probably midnight, or somewhere close to midnight. When they got there, the girls ended up just hanging out outside. Katie's ex-boyfriend Chris was there, and from what we gathered, they were the kind of exes who still kept in contact. Kristen said that she figured Jaleayah was drunk because she ended up dancing on Chris and they would talk really close to one another. She said that Katie was getting aggravated but wasn't the type to do or say anything. After a while, Kristen would try to end up taking Jaleayah's wristlet because she was afraid that she would lose it. but she wouldn't give it to her. She said that Jaleayah didn't seem overly intoxicated. Did you catch that? In her interview, Kristen said that she thought Jaleayah was drunk, but then said she didn't seem overly intoxicated. Just one of the many things like this in her interview. The group would end up leaving Nip and Q around 3 a.m., and Freddie was driving everyone back to Brian's house. Kristen was in the passenger seat, and Jaleayah and Katie were in the back. When they got back to Brian's house, they ended up staying inside of Freddie's car. Quote, "We were just sitting there in the car trying to figure out what we were going to do. If we were going to go home or if we were going to go inside." Jaleayah was talking to Dominic Hall on the phone, and I think she was trying to go hang out with him or whoever he was with, and she couldn't find her wristlet. Her wristlet was somewhere in the car, and she was getting mad. She was fussing at me about it because she thought that I did something with it, and I told her that I tried to take it away from her a few times tonight so that she wouldn't lose it, and she basically was like, "I don't know where it is." She was kind of like blaming me for it, and I was like, "I don't have it." So I found it for her, and we found her keys because she needed to get something out of her car, and we decided that we were going to go home. And we thought Jaleayah was going to come with us, but she ended up calling her sister and asked her to come pick her up and said she needed a ride. So I don't know if she was trying to hang out with that guy or she was just trying to get back to her house. End quote.
During her interview, Kristen was asked, "Did you hear where she was going to have Toby get her at?" Quote, "I don't think so. She went to get out of the car and she said, 'Toby, I need you to come pick me up and I will explain what's going on when you get here.' And she didn't tell her where to pick her up, but she got out of Freddie's car and went to get in her car, and we were asking her, we were saying, 'Is your sister for sure going to come and pick you up? You're not going to drive anywhere. Are you sure you're not going to drive?' If she had any intentions of driving, then I wasn't going to let her go, and she told me she wasn't going to drive, so we're like, okay, if you're going to stay here and wait for your sister, then we are going to go ahead and go home." And we left there, and me and her sister got in touch around 3:50 a.m. And her sister is like, "Where's Jaleayah?" And I told her that she was in front of Brian Sapp's house, and she said that she couldn't get a hold of her. And I told her that Jaleayah was waiting for her there and that she was supposed to go pick her up there. I kind of explain briefly how to get there, and she said that she couldn't get a hold of her and call me back if you don't get a hold of her. When I tried to call Jaleayah and she wasn't answering, and we went through McDonald's, got some food, and Freddie was taking Katie back to my house. So then I get a call from Toby on my way home that was like, "I don't know where Jaleayah is. Do you know where she is? Have you talked to her?" I said I hadn't talked to her. She didn't answer, and then right before she got off the phone, she said, "Oh my God," and hung up, end quote.
If you guys remember, we mentioned Chris, who was Katie's ex-boyfriend. I wanted to get through most of the night through Kristen's eyes before I told you what he said in his interview. So we know Chris was Katie's boyfriend, but what we didn't know is that him and Jaleayah actually knew each other. In fact, they've been friends since the 9th grade, and since he no longer lived in the area, they just kept in touch. He said that he hung out with the girls for most of his time at Nip and Q. He couldn't recall any fighting or arguing happening between the girls, but he did recall that Jaleayah was pretty drunk, and that she had high heels on and seemed to be having a hard time standing. He said that he kind of just stood near her because she didn't seem like she was feeling very good. He said that she was falling all over the place. Such a different statement from Kristen's, and I honestly have to wonder why. Chris said that he ended up picking Katie up from Kristen's between 3:30 to 4 a.m. He asked Katie why Jaleayah wasn't with them, and she said that Kristen and Jaleayah got into an argument. When Chris and Katie woke up that morning, that's when they found out Jaleayah was dead. In Toby's interview, she said the last time Jaleayah texted her was around 9:50 p.m. She said that Jaleayah called her at 3:28 a.m. to see if she would pick her up, 3:33 a.m. to double check, and to make sure that Toby and her friend were on their way. During one of the calls, it said that Toby could hear Jaleayah asking Kristen for her keys, so she just thought that they were at Kristen's house. She said that Jaleayah was going on about how Kristen was such a bitch and a bad friend. Jaleayah said that she was on the interstate, but didn't say if she had anyone else in the car or not. In Toby's interview, she said, quote, "Yeah, and it was because of me and my friend couldn't get a hold of Jaleayah once we had gotten to Williamstown." And I was like, well, maybe she's still with Kristen. I will try to call Kristen. So then I called her again at 3:53 a.m. and she answered, and then was like, as we're on the interstate, she was talking about the last time she saw Jaleayah. And I remember her saying, well, Jaleayah was mad because of the wristlet. Then it kind of just went blank after that. And that was like when we pulled up and saw everything. And I just like immediately hung up on her, all panicky and stuff, end quote.
On I-77 at mile marker 181, Toby and her friend came around a curve to see a bunch of cops. They pulled over and a police officer told them a woman's body had been found on the highway. All they would tell her is that it was an African-American female wearing a white pea coat. At that moment, Toby knew it was her sister. She called her mother and everyone in their family who arrived on the scene not too long after the calls. The police confirmed with the family after they arrived that the body was Jaleayah's. In her interview, Toby said after she hung up quick with Kristen, she got 2 calls at 4:07 and 4:09 from Kristen. Toby was asked, "And what did you say to her at the time you called her?" Toby said, quote, just what we had drove up on, and oh my God, like what I saw, and like I was just crying and I ended up hanging up on her, end quote. She also said that Kristen texted her at 4:49 a.m. and was like, please let me know what is going on. And then she texted me at 10:06 a.m. and was like, are you awake? Is everything okay? You haven't told me anything. And then she called me at 11:46 a.m.
Toby was asked if she talked to Kristen, and she said, quote, no, I have missed calls from her. She called me at 4:16 a.m. and I didn't answer it. 4:28 a.m. and I didn't answer it. 4:48 a.m. and I didn't answer it. And then 9:52 a.m. and I didn't answer it. And then at 11:46 a.m. and I didn't answer it, end quote. Before Toby got to the accident on November 19th, 2011 at 3:41 a.m., the 911 emergency call center received a phone call.
911, what is your emergency?
Yeah, I'm calling about a car that's broke down on 77 North.
Okay, where at on I-77?
On the 181 or so. The lights are on, and it's up against the guardrails. Something's going on there, but I couldn't see anybody. It's pretty cold out, so I don't know what's going on over there.
Can you give me a vehicle description, like a red car, blue truck?
All I know is that it's a car. He had his headlights on. He's right by the car. He's up against the guardrail, so there's something around. You know that the people I couldn't see, but the lights in the car, or something's going on over there.
Can I have your name, sir? Can I have your name?
At 3:48 a.m., the 911 emergency call center received another call.
Just stay in the vehicle. I'm going to keep the doors locked. Just stay here.
911, what's your emergency?
Sir, I'm at the 181.6 mile marker, northbound on I-77. I cannot make confirmation of this right now. I'm walking back. I think I just seen a human lying dead on the highway, sir.
Okay, and you walked away from your vehicle?
I'm getting out of my vehicle and I'm walking back to where I seen the person.
And you think you're at 181?
My name is Brian Burden. We drove by and you know how it's dark and you can't see. But I'm just pretty sure it might have been a person. Gosh, I really don't want to walk back here. You know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, sir, you don't have to. Stay where you're at, and I'll have someone come up there.
I'm getting closer to it. I'm hoping it's a deer, sir. I really am, but I'm pretty sure I saw what I saw. Oh, man. In fact, here's some other people. I don't know if you're getting more phone calls. 2 other guys just stopped here at the bottom of the hill. Oh, man.
Okay, sir. Do you know your cell phone number? Is it 606?
I'm getting getting closer to it. Oh man, I'm hoping it's a deer. I'm hoping I can't. I got my boy.
In any way, when hit, did you pull along the side of the guardrail, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm pulled along the guardrail. There's a chemical tanker truck that just pulled over. I'm getting closer to it. There is a semi-tanker truck that's coming at me right now. No, stay over here, truck driver. Stay over here. Stay over here. Oh my gosh. I can't get over here in traffic. Yes, sir. Confirmation. Human body. Oh my gosh.
Do you want to check to see if the person is still alive or breathing?
Sir, there's parts of him I can't. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Sir, turn around and don't look at him, okay? Turn around and don't look at him.
Oh my God. Sir, you need to hurry up and get people here, please.
Okay, we got people on the way out to you, sir.
Can I start stopping traffic? This might be a crime scene, right?
Do you have a flashlight? I don't want you getting hit.
Yes, I do. No. Another person's just about hit him. Oh my God. If you can get the county sheriff department here as soon as possible, sir.
The sheriff department is on the way. So is the fire department and an ambulance.
Okay, there is a tanker driver who just pulled in front of me. There is a vehicle. I can't.
Can anybody turn their hazard lights on? Put as much light on that situation as you can, okay?
Well, most of us already passed it, sir. I'm getting kind of like, sir, this is a crime scene. I'm just positive. I see this is a crime scene, sir. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal.
Sir, you said that you have your son with you?
Yes, my son is with me, kind of like a crime scene.
He's not out there walking around with you.
See his shirt? There's his head and skull right there. See it? Oh.
Is the head not attached to the body?
No, sir. Part of the head is right over here. I need you to get over here to the right. Over to the right.
Make sure that you tell him.
The sheriff's department is here. He's getting ready to block both lanes, sir.
Okay, sir. You go ahead and talk to that deputy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And at 3:52 a.m., there was a third 911 call placed.
911, what's your emergency?
Has anyone called in on it's in Wood County on the interstate 182, right before 182? Looks like somebody busted a deer. They got
I'm sorry, what?
It's 182 northbound, interstate 77. Looks like somebody hit a deer. There's a couple of trucks on the side keeping people away from the deer. There's a car by the guardrail. I don't know if anybody...
Okay, it's around the 182?
Yes, just right before the 182 northbound.
Okay, we got deputies on the scene out there, sir.
Okay, I just went by and there wasn't anyone there, so I just thought I'd call.
Okay, thank you.
So many things did not add up in the death of Jaleayah to the Davis family and the community. As most of you can guess, there were rumors that Kristen and Freddie were involved in the death of Jaleayah. So many things did not add up to make it just a simple car accident. Jaleayah's car was found a quarter of a mile past where her body was found. Her keys were still in the ignition and the car was running and still in gear, and the door was locked. It said that Jaleayah's car did not lock automatically, so you had to lock it from the inside. Now, you would probably think, oh, her car might have just coasted in a straightaway. That makes the most sense, right? However, her car had to go through 2 curves. No blood was found in her car. The damage that was done on the right front side of the passenger side. There was some damage with a scrape going down the right side of the car. The damage does not seem to be consistent with a vehicle accident or even hitting a deer at 70 miles per hour. That would eject the driver from the vehicle. There's also spidering on the passenger side of the window. Jaleayah's clothing is another thing that, in this case, has left everyone asking questions. Her clothing arrangement was odd. So, court, if you take your clothes off, or they might be pulled off of you in an accident, your top layer would come off first, right?
Yes, if we're talking about a jacket, yes.
Then your shirt, bra, and whatnot.
Yes.
Jaleayah's clothing was found folded neatly on the guardrail. Her bra was on the bottom, then her shirt, then her white pea coat, which you can see images of this and all other things we talk about in this episode on our Instagram, and more images on our website, mountainstatemysteriespodcast.com. The hood of the pea coat was found to be over the guardrail and in some brush with blood on it. There is blood just everywhere in the crime scene, in the road, on the guardrails, on her clothing, not just in the vehicle.
In 2012, a woman from Marietta, Ohio, whose name is Amber Stafford, came forward to the police with an eyewitness account of what she saw the night of Jaleayah's death. She said that she met Jaleayah at a bar earlier that night and witnessed a confrontation between her and two black males and a white female in the parking lot of the bar. She says she witnessed Jaleayah pulling out of the parking lot with the others following her. She said the two cars were engaged in horseplay on I-77 before the vehicle with the three inside forced Jaleayah's vehicle off the road. She says she saw Jaleayah get out of her vehicle. In June of 2012, Amber agreed to a polygraph, which she failed. After the polygraph, during some questions, she says she did make up the entire story. She received 6 months in jail and a $500 fine.
In March of 2013, Jaleayah's autopsy was released. It described her death as multiple catastrophic injuries sustained as a result of an unrestrained driver of a car that lost control and struck a guardrail on I-77. They also said alcohol intoxication was another factor. What we are about to tell you is what authorities believed happened to Jaleayah. While driving, unrestrained and heavily intoxicated, Jaleayah, traveling at highway speed, struck the guardrail on the right passenger side, making an initial impact on the front right headlight. She was thrown across her vehicle and ejected from the right front passenger window at the same time her airbag deployed. She then hit two posts, then flipped backwards over her car.
Jaleayah's mother, Kim, said that the police want them to think that her daughter was a human boomerang and that what they said happened could actually happen. She also said that Jaleayah's clothes, she said the shirt wasn't badly damaged and that the bra wasn't torn at the straps, that it was tore under one armpit. Now with Jaleayah, quote, flipping, end quote, over her car, she managed to put 0 dents on it. The only thing she got on it was blood on the license plate, and on the passenger's front side there was no blood, skin, fabric fibers on it whatsoever.
Authorities believe that Jaleayah got distracted and that caused her to strike the guardrail. Kim said, quote, "We were told that they believe the reason she wrecked is because she was looking for something because her dome light was on, which isn't true. They forgot that when it was dark, I drove up on the scene, and they forgot that it was dark when Toby drove up on the scene. Toby remembers many things from that night in great detail, and Toby says that the dome light was not on," end quote.
Many items of Jaleayah's were left on the scene of the crime, such as the hood of her jacket and the earrings she was wearing. Kim said a detective told her father that they took a picture of the earring at the crime scene but left it there. Jaleayah's favorite keychain was also missing. It was a jewel-encrusted J that Toby got her as a gift. In an episode of Still a Mystery, Toby said that Jaleayah never took that keychain off. Later, it was found out that Kristen actually had the keychain. She gave several reasons as to why she had the keychain. She told some people that Jaleayah ended up giving it to her as a gift that night.
From what we can see from all of the case records that we have, the group that was with Jaleayah that night was not questioned more than once. They said that Kristen, Katie, and Freddie all had alibis. During the calls between Jaleayah and Toby, there is security footage from McDonald's of Freddie. In the footage, you can see Freddie and what appears to be two others in the car with him. Now, who was in the car with him, to us, is unknown, since you really can't see anything other than hands moving. The video was time-stamped between 3:26 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. In June of 2018, Emily Nestor released a podcast titled Mile Marker 181. She worked close with Jaleayah's family to shed light on her case. She told Kim that people had approached her about a documentary about Jaleayah's death, and it was soon found out that the documentary would be centered around Nestor and her rise in the world of true crime. Emily posted an offensive video on her Facebook page about Jaleayah's death. Kim posted that she was no longer associated with Emily or the podcast. The post read, quote, "Jaleayah Davis is not a martyr. Jaleayah Davis is not an example of police misconduct, cover-up, or brutality, or literally anything except what happens when you drive intoxicated. That's the lesson, not cops protecting their own. The lesson is what will happen if you make that choice to drink and drive a motor vehicle at a high rate of speed while driving intoxicated and you crash. It's not a police cover-up, it's physics. It's not there's something more sinister going on behind the scenes. It's that people sympathize with a grieving, crying mom to a fault. I sure did. And it won't even be the last time. Stop letting Kim Davis play you for an idiot. I did that groundwork for you." End quote.
Now, after this was posted, Emily has taken down the podcast she created. Multiple true crime blogs have spoken very negatively about her. She has now become very discredited in the world of true crime. I'm sure, just like us, everyone else listening to this right now is wondering what could have changed her mind about this case.
The general thought in Marietta is that Jaleayah met with foul play that night. Yes, we know she was intoxicated, but there are things that show that a proper investigation was not performed into the death of Jaleayah Davis.
There are many theories about this case. Kim Davis runs the Facebook page, Justice for Jaleayah Davis, and she believes that her daughter was murdered, and the ones who are responsible for her death are being protected by the authorities.
If you have any information on the death of Jaleayah Davis, please contact her mother Kim through the Facebook page, Justice for Jaleayah Davis. Courtney, do you have any final thoughts on this case?
Where do I even begin on this? First and foremost, Mark found all the investigation files, everything online. Okay, first and foremost, can we please talk about how the police don't even have her birthday correct on the police report?
Oh, yeah.
That they actually have her birthday as the date of her death on there. Number two, there is so much in this that makes no sense for the fact of how did this girl possibly get ejected out of the passenger window?
Yeah, that's never made any sense to me.
It doesn't make no sense because I can tell you right now, I actually have to go up into the Parkersburg, Marietta area a lot for work. I have driven that road many, many times. And I do know for a fact that when you're going around that curve, there you have to brake going around it because it is sharp. It is a sharp curve. But even at that, at where it is, there's only a short area up through there that there is a guardrail up there.
Really?
Near where her accident supposedly happened. And then after that, it's pretty much just, there's not a lot of guardrail up through there. I could be wrong, maybe not paying that much attention, but that's what I remember because when this case was introduced to me, I immediately started looking at this because nothing made sense about it when I first heard it. And even now, it doesn't make much sense with it. But the thing that boggles me is how did her clothes get there? You're telling me that this girl got out of her car and took her clothes off and folded them neatly and then, I don't know. I mean,
got hit by a vehicle, by a tractor trailer.
Does not make sense. Does not make sense on this. Do I feel that there is foul play in this case right here?
That 1,000%.
100%. There is foul play in this case. Do I feel that she had injustice done upon her? 100%. Do I feel that the police have failed her? 100%. I do feel that. For the fact that they can't even fill out an accident report correctly, what does that say?
Yeah.
And another thing is, too, the call logs that are on her phone from that night. That don't make a lot of sense. And things of this nature. Like, there is so much that, you know, who knows what goes on through their minds. This could very much be a sinister thing that happened. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. I get very angry over this case. I do. I get very angry over this because a mother's child got killed in a horrific manner. I can't even begin to think what this poor mother has thought, what her sister thought. Could you imagine coming upon that scene and finding your sister or your child in that manner and somebody telling you that it was just a freak of nature accident? Nothing in this makes any type of sense whatsoever. And this poor girl deserves the justice that she deserves. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Mark, do you have any final thoughts?
I fully remember getting the text from you being like, hey, I just got told about this case. I searched it for maybe 5 seconds and I texted you, well, this is the season 3 premiere of Mountain State Mysteries. And it's been in the back of my mind since, what was it, around the time of Sharice Gwynn's episode? Yeah, it was. We just did release Sharice Gwynn's episode and you texted me this case and I'm like, well, this is it. I wanted to add it into season 2. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. It's going to be season 3 premiere. And it's safe to say I'm still confused as hell about this case. Nothing makes any type of sense to me. Like you said. How can someone be ejected from a passenger side window? How can there be no blood in the vehicle? You know, how can her body end up being decapitated on it and not have like any blood or clothing fibers on the car? Or that it just seems insane to me. And you know, I'm not sure if I put this in the episode or not, but it took them so long to interview Kristen. I want to say it might have been 12 days because she ended up getting a lawyer not even 12 hours after everything happened.
If you done nothing, why would you lawyer up? Ooh!
With this case, it might only be solved if people start talking about everything that happened that night. Stay tuned for our next episode where we will be telling you about a strange murder that has left everyone asking a lot of questions. If you find yourself enjoying Mountain State Mysteries, take a second to follow and rate it on your favorite podcast platform. It helps others find good West Virginia true crime podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all at Mountain State Mysteries.
Do you have a case you want us to cover? Email us at mountainstatemysteries304@gmail.com.
For the show notes, check out our website, mountainstatemysteriespodcast.com.